Hello everyone and welcome back to an episode. I am coming to you all the way from, it's actually sunny Melbourne at the moment, which is surprising. Normally the weather over here is pretty horrible. It was horrible this morning actually. I am coming to you from the last day we have been spending over in Melbourne at the Arnolds Classic Australia, which has been one awesome week, and I am sorry for this podcast coming in a little bit late. I'm going to try from now on, not going to try, I'm going to, so I can let you know the podcast days. They will be uploading on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays from now on. Welcome to the Breakthrough the Bullshit podcast. I am your host, Alice Round. I am pumped to have you here. We are going to really strip back all of the bullshit surrounding nutrition, training, bad diets, everything in the industry, so that we can give you education to get the best possible results. So sit back, enjoy the ride, and let's go through all this bullshit. So be sure that you've subscribed and you get those updates on those days. So this is my Sunday podcast coming in a little bit late, but I just wanted to give a little bit of a wrap up of the Arnolds Classic Australia. If you don't know what it is, those of you tuning in who have no idea about the bodybuilding industry, which is completely understandable, basically the Arnolds Classic Australia is a massive sporting event now. It's not just bodybuilding anymore. They have other sports going on. They're trying to create it as to be a sports festival, so rather than just a bodybuilding show. So over in Melbourne, it's, I believe, the third year. I think it's the third year now running. This is the third Arnolds Classic. Yes, I think it's only the third one. So before that, it was actually FitX, so it was just Fitness Expo. But now, same sort of thing, but now obviously it's taken over by the IFBB rather than the INBA. So we have an IFBB bodybuilding show. Now, again, if you have no idea about the bodybuilding scene, that's all mumbo jumbo. Doesn't really matter, but basically it's more linked to Arnold Schwarzenegger, who is highly linked with the IFBB. So regardless of that, I came over to Melbourne. We've been here for pretty much a week now. We got in last Tuesday. And we came over because I had clients competing and also friends and people in the booth. And it's just a really good part of the fitness industry to be involved in. And I guess that's what, in part, I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to talk about the fitness industry, being associated with it, why I like it, the good things, the bad things. For anyone listening who wants to get involved in the fitness industry more, who is a personal trainer, who is a coach, who is a competitor, whatever it being, just a general little, I guess, wrap up of the weekend and everything there. So in saying that, there's a lot of, I did an Instagram post about this a few days ago, but there's a lot of pros and cons with the fitness industry and a lot of misconceptions. And if you buy into everything that you see on social media, it can be quite a toxic headspace to get yourselves in terms of, seeing someone do a supplement post or, putting a product up and a shredded photo of them next to it, and people thinking that that's how you kind of have to look to be involved in this industry. And I definitely thought that for many years. I've worked on several booths and been at several expos, working for companies and being on supplements and products. And I remember I always used to get really worried about how I was going to look, like if I had to diet to be on the booth and certain expectations. And the funny thing is that this year I went to the expo and, just to enjoy it. I didn't go on a booth or a stand, which was really nice as well. I just kind of got to chat to people and wander around and be with my clients and do things that I wanted to do on my own time rather than being tied down to a booth. And it was really refreshing, getting to chat to people and not be so worried about your body image or this and that. And I felt like that the image in the industry is really changing, and that people aren't just aspiring to these shredded people, especially women, are just being more empowered by positive women. And I got to meet some other women who I feel like I have very similar values to in the industry, women like Beck Chambers, and there's a few others out there that I believe are promoting a more positive body image for women, a more realistic body image for women, and they're also educating as well as just posting some funny stuff too, but they're just not taking life too seriously, which is really nice and refreshing to see, because a lot of the time when you're just following women who are just shredded and all the time, 24/7, 10% body fat year round, and constantly telling you about the diet pills or potions or shakes that they take, it makes women get this misconception in their head that that's what you actually have to do to look that way. And whether they do that or not is irrelevant. But I think this comes back to happiness, and it doesn't mean that they're happy. It doesn't mean that that's the standard of their life. And I know, trust me, from being behind the scenes at some of these fitness expos, some of the stuff that the girls were doing before being at a booth, some of the girls I was on booths with before had been dieting for 6 months for this fitness expo, or they had been, getting up at 5 a.m. to go do 2 hours of cardio before getting on the booth, getting a spray tan, getting their hair and makeup done, all of this just to stand on a booth and talk to people about being real. And for me, I'm like, it's a little bit fake. So I think what I'm trying to say is these sort of events are really good for connecting with people, real people, catching up with people from across Australia. But at the same time, you've kind of got to take them with a grain of salt and realise that there's things, people have choices of who they aspire to, and I feel like it's great to have aspirations and get motivated from people, but be sure that the people that you're following are actually leaving a positive impact on your mental state. You're not just looking at them for physical aspirations, because you're not even sure yourself whether that person's truly happy with their own physique and their own life and everything surrounding it and what they actually have to sacrifice to be there. And of course there's going to be sacrifices, but if that means everything, then I really don't think it's worth it. So that is one of the points I wanted to touch on today. Another one that I wanted to talk about is a bit more about actual IFBB bikini. And now this show is not really about bodybuilding. My podcast is not focused on bodybuilding, but I guess I just want to talk about something briefly for those that do compete or they're thinking about competing. And a big one is judging. And I know that I'm going to get some hardship from this, but I'm going to be really honest with everyone and give my personal opinion on it without ruffling too many feathers, of course. So basically, when it comes down to it, a lot of people you'll see post things on social media and they'll put up a photo and they may not have placed well in a show, or they haven't done as well as they expected. And I've got two ways of looking at this. Okay, one thing is that is a photo on social media. That is not a clear representation of how you looked, how your stage presence was, how you walked, how you posed. That might have been your best photo out of 50 angles. And it's also not a clear representation of what the judges see. The judges sit down below you on the stage and they have a slightly different perspective than to people also watching the show. So they're going to see your body from a different angle. And if you're seeing a photo of one person compared with like a lineup of people, you're also not getting a clear representation of what the competition was like. And if that was, they might have been up against some insane competition, but you're thinking, looking at their photo, they look good, and they probably do. But maybe the competition looked better. So we've got to take this objective standpoint when you're looking at a show and realizing whether you're actively being objective or you actually can't really give an opinion because you weren't there. And it was funny because we watched some of the live stream from our hotel room and we were watching the men's bodybuilding and we were like, oh, we definitely think like Ross looks the best, a guy from WA. And then we went down for the final and we walked in and we were like, wow, they look so different up on the stage, and we were 20 meters away comparative to what they looked on the TV, and we were like, no, okay, well, yeah, Nathan deserves this, and Nathan got his pro card. So it's crazy the difference that watching something from the TV to watching something from your phone and then watching something up close and personal makes. So just be a little bit cautious of that if you are watching a show or giving feedback and you're a bit unsure to why. I think the judges have a very tough job and I feel sorry for them. I would not want to be in their position. It's very difficult. It's also very fast. Like, you've got hundreds of competitors coming at you and you're trying to jot down notes on everyone, and then everyone wants feedback, and you've got to remember all of this for the day, and it's a very, very tough job. So I can't take that away from them, and I think that they're doing the best job that they can. And people are going to say, oh, bikini's inconsistent or men's physique's inconsistent in their judging. Well, it may be a little bit, but the hard thing is, like I said, there's so many people, and you're also comparing what's on stage. So like, you're comparing apples and oranges. So if you get one girl that comes up on stage and she's really, really lean, and you get another girl that comes up that's not as lean but she has better shape, then it's like, who do you go for? At the end of the day, it's going to come down to little things like that. There's 3 categories they judge for. It's symmetry, it's conditioning, and then it's presentation as well. So you got to look at that as well. You might have the best body on stage, but if you have horrible presentation, you don't know how to pose, and your walking's really bad, then you're going to get marked down. So it's got to come down to the whole package, and that's just something to keep in mind if you are ever thinking about competing or you're someone that is maybe watching a show from the outside and judging by just photos. So that being said, I guess I want to talk about one more thing from the Arnolds. I'm going to keep this podcast pretty short and brief, and then do a bigger one tomorrow on nutrition and training while traveling. But this one, basically, I just want to talk about, I guess, the bit of girl power and girl movement across Australia and even globally that I'm starting to see. And I got to connect with some women this weekend, like I said, who were not women that I don't particularly aspire to be someone else, because I am happy and content with who I am and proud of myself for the things I've achieved, but I gain motivation from seeing what others are achieving, and I get more motivated by that. And I think that that's something that's a really important message for people listening to this podcast to understand, because a lot of women, I'll see comment on other women's Instagrams. I don't think I have a really big following, but even on mine sometimes, but generally I'll see it more on friends' Instagrams and accounts that have big followings of women commenting, going hashtag goals, or hashtag I want your life, or, you know, you're perfect, or I want to be you, or you're my you know, my aspiration, and all of these sort of things before. And I'm like, why do you want to be someone else? Like, the world already has that person. So if you're going to come up and be a copy of that, is that really going to be accepted the same way that they are and praised? Probably not. So I think that, like, it's important to have people as role models, or people as that help you as a source of motivation. But you don't want to aspire to be them. You want to aspire to be the best version of yourself, and also find out, like, what your niche is. Like, if you're wanting to create more attention on social media, or more of a following so that you can get a positive message out there, I have no problem with that. Like, that's great. Like, we're all here to create an impact, as long as that's in a positive way. And I felt like over the last few years, like, my message has probably been a little bit skewed at times, because I would see, you know, girls posting certain images and think, is that what I need to do to gain a following? And in the past, maybe when I posted more revealing photos, or photos from photo shoots that were, a lot more revealing than what I would probably do now, I have no qualms with that. And my, you know, hats off to them if they want to post images like that. That's completely fine. But for me, that's not my brand, and that's not where I want to go with my business. And it took me sitting back and realizing, like, I want to, you know, inspire women and motivate women to be strong mentally and physically, not just look good. Then the way that I'm branding myself completely changes, and what messages I choose to put out, I feel like are a lot more real and authentic. And I feel like I'm getting a lot more positive feedback from women around that message, now that I've stopped trying to be something that I'm not, and being really real and honest about who I am. And who I am is someone that I don't like to wear a lot of makeup day to day. I don't like to do my hair every single day. I'm generally in a messy bun and gym clothes 24/7. So for me to post photos where I'm completely done up and it's all photo shooted and photoshopped and edited and all of that, it's just not really me. And it's beautiful to have those photos, and I'm not to say that I'll never post photos like that. It's so nice to be a girl and be done up and do all of that. But to have all my images represent that is just not me. So I like to have a mix of, you know, just real photos where I'm in the gym and I'm a mess and I'm sweaty, and that's life, and that's how you should look in the gym. Because if you're constantly, again, seeing photos of girls where they're photoshopped in the gym, you're thinking, oh my God, like, I look like a disgusting sweaty mess, and they look like that 24/7, when it's just not the case. And it just puts so much pressure on ourselves as women. So I hope you guys value the fact that I am putting out content now that is really real and raw, and I've really tried to do that in the last year or two. And I believe that, I'm hoping, and I'd love to hear feedback, that gets you guys more motivated to see the reality of it as well. And again, like I said, it's your choice. If you're someone that only wants to post, you know, perfectly polished photos with your hair and makeup done and everything all put together, and that's what you actually look like day to day, then cool. Like, more power to you for having the time to actually, you know, look after yourself in that extent. I guess for me, it's just, you know, the way that I look is a little bit more lax, and it's not something that I prioritize as much as other things. So yeah, I think social media is very confusing at times for people, and it can be very overwhelming. And something that I encourage people to have is a social media detox or a social media break. And I said this to some of my clients the other day that, and in my breakthrough program, that we do a social media detox, where what we do is you go through and I get people to delete accounts or unfollow accounts. You don't have to delete them, but you can just unfollow them if they're not adding any value to your life. So if you're seeing a photo of a girl and she's extremely shredded all the time, always looks amazing, but is only ever trying to sell you something. So she's just trying to sell you some fat burner or sell you some skinny tea or some, waist trainer. Then is that adding any value to your life, and is it making you feel better about yourself? Whereas if, she was posting those same photos but maybe saying something super positive and inspiring and maybe educating about training and nutrition, then you may want to keep following that account. But if they're not adding anything to your life in a positive fashion and they're only getting you maybe even more depressed looking at those images, then maybe it might be time to hit that unfollow button and start following things that are actually inspiring you in your life. And I think that's the same with Facebook, like not liking pages that you don't want to appear in your newsfeed. And for me, I actually deleted Facebook off my phone because I found that it's a massive distraction. And we all talk about not having enough time, but then we're always, trolling social media and going on Snapchat and Instagram and all these things. And again, I think they're great tools, and it's a habit that I'm trying to break at the moment, is spending so much time on them and just allocating a couple of times a day to check certain things. So for me, obviously, it's a big part of my job. I have to be on Facebook pages and groups and checking in with my clients and things. But if you don't need to use it, then limit the time on it and only use it for the things that are adding value to your life. So for example, I deleted Facebook off my phone, but I've kept the app's groups. So I can still go on there on my phone and check in with my groups, comment in my groups, and then I'm only going on there to see things that are either work-related or positivity in terms of my life. So I'm part of groups that I feel are, positive things as well, that are in my favorites, where I'm in groups with my mentors or other people that inspire me. Rather than seeing these negative news feeds and things, you just don't have to see it. So it's your choice how you set up your social media. So I'm not going to make this one too long, but I would like to have a little wrap up here, and I'd love to hear in the comments below about topics you would like to hear about, or any women you'd like me to have on the show in terms of motivation, inspiration. And I would like you guys to also, listening, to have a little social media detox. Go through your social media, see if there's any accounts in there that don't make you feel good or things that aren't adding value to your life. And if they are doing
Thank you for listening to another episode of Breakthrough the Bullshit. If you enjoyed this podcast, I would love it if you could leave a review on iTunes. Let me know, comment what you'd love to see more of, and be sure you've also subscribed on YouTube and iTunes for updates. And if you'd like more info, then you can also add the Team Round Support Facebook page, which is available to access for all of you, and you just simply need to search for it on Facebook.